and welcome to Couched in Color with Dr. Alfie. I'm your host, Dr. Alfie. Today, we're going to stick with our theme of special topics, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation with a young adult who works for a fascinating company that has been, to date, quite supportive of our work, my work personally, and that of my nonprofit. And she's going to talk with us a little bit about what some of the issues are facing young adults related to their mental health and how companies and workplaces can be more supportive, more inclusive, and more welcoming around the mental health needs of racially diverse young people. So stay with us. You know, here on Couched in Color, we always focus on all things related to teens, young adults, and the families and communities that love them. And so we'll be right on the other side of this with a conversation with our guest, and you'll learn a lot more about young adults, workplaces, and mental health. Stay with us. Welcome to Couched in Color. This is a video podcast where we talk about all things mental health, particularly for marginalized communities of young people and young people of color. We have a really significant focus on teens, young adults, and the people who love them, their families, and communities. And so it is my pleasure to welcome my guest. She's so bubbly. She knows I adore her. She's my baby sister, so I'm just going to claim her and hold on to her. I'm probably old enough to be her mama, but we ain't going to say that. We're going to say my baby sister.
You don't look like it. Don't look like today.
Thank you.
25.
You so sweet. You so sweet. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to my new friend. We met last year, and I want to allow her to introduce herself, the company that she works for, and then we're going to launch into a little conversation about mental health in our young adults.
Awesome. So thank you guys for having me. I'm so grateful. This is pretty awesome. So my name is Angel White. I'm a community manager at Ballston, Arlington, Virginia. I'm so grateful to be at Industrious because it's a co-working space. So essentially, I get to help out so many different communities in providing them flexible office space. So I'm in a professional environment where I come into contact with people of different businesses, different ideas, different political views, different colors, different races, and I'm able to become a chameleon to that and really get to know people and how to service their needs. Mm-hmm. So I'm a graduate of George Mason University, graduated in 2015 with a degree in communications. I focused in public relations and also minored in business. So that's where you get kind of like that entrepreneur, really go-getter mindset from that all came about when I went to George Mason. After George Mason, I went to American University, my master's in strategic communication. So it's been a pretty awesome ride because with that experience, with those degrees, I've been able to work at many different public relations firms where I've worked on many different government contracts. I was able to lead large national movements. I actually worked with the National Park Service, did their 100th anniversary. Wow. We had a concert series. So all of like your DC favorites, the Go-Go, Fun, the Jazz, I was able to promote for that. And just, understanding and how people work and how people are and loving on people. That's where I kind of found Industrious because as a community manager, that's what I get to do. So that's just a little bit about me.
Excellent. So you touched on a number of things, and I'm really interested in a couple of those. One of the things I'm interested in is as a young woman and a young woman of color in this day and age, what would you say, and this is literally just personal opinion, there's no right or wrong answers. Whatever you say, whatever you feel is the right answer. So what would you say are some of the issues and concerns related to mental health and emotional well-being that you see as like the top 3 or 4 impacting young women of color and young adults?
For sure. So I would say the first one that came to mind when you were asking that question would be the pressure, especially for women, particularly Black women in a professional environment. You have to act a certain way, you have to look a certain way, you have to speak a certain way, or you won't be accepted. So it's like, where's that balance of being accepted while still maintaining my personality, my culture, and being able to utilize that to educate people on what it is to be a Black woman in business. So there's a lot of pressure, there, and trying not to mess up. That really messes with your mental health because now you're judging yourself. Did I do this right? Did I say this right? Is this man of the opposite race
Mm-hmm,
who's
mm-hmm,
50 years older than me is
mm-hmm,
judging me internally while I'm,
mm-hmm,
trying to service him in the workspace.
mm-hmm.
That's been one of the largest things that I would say has touched on mental health. But then also on the flip side of that, it's like the second thing that came to mind was the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you find balance in your personal life and in your professional life while
Mm-hmm.
trying to overachieve in this? Because as a woman, a Black female in business,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you feel as though, you have to do more in order to, really hit that standard or even set the bar high so that you can show your worth in the marketplace. So where do you find that balance between working really hard, being on the job, doing what you have to do, and then coming home and just decompressing and letting your mind go, blank so that you can rejuvenate yourself? I would say that those are the two main things, the top things, especially being, I'm only 26 years old. I'm still out here grinding. I'm just now getting started with my career, and I want to do more. So it's going to be some time till I get to the point where I feel comfortable in my space as a Black female in the professional world. So how do I take care of my mental health while meeting those high expectations?
So I'm encouraged because you're very open about it and talking about and I think your experience reflects pretty much every young Black woman I know, right? So millennial young women, Gen Z young women, the older Gen Z young women who are like just emerging out of college. And then I think about my generation, Gen X women. What's encouraging is that we all share that, but at the same time, that's discouraging because it means not much has changed.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And so, I've been out of undergrad for 30 years. And so I can remember as recently as the last sort of workspace I was in professionally. Like I work for myself now, but in that last workspace, it was the same stuff, right? And I was way past 26. And so, and so I just, it makes me kind of sad that we all have that shared experience and that so little of it has changed. And I'm wondering if you, from your perspective as, like you said, a young Black woman, when you talk to other young Black women or other young women of color, whether that's in your professional space or personal space, what do you hear them say about how that pressure and how that trying to create balance, how does that impact them? What kind of things do you hear and see from young women?
Yes. So especially a lot of my peers and, a lot of women who are maybe a little younger than me, around 20, 21, just now graduating and getting into that workspace. What I tend to see is that you have some overachievers.
Yeah.
And then you have some where it's like, I'm too afraid to step into this because I don't want to be judged. So they take a step back. And it's really hard to see. So what I hear the same things, it's a lot of pressure. I don't know what to do. I don't want to be judged. I don't even want to go for it because it's scary, or they only want to work with people of their own color because that's where they find comfort. Which I encourage them, like, yes, work with people of color and, create something massive, create a movement. But at the same time, you're going to have to learn how to work with people who don't look like you. And that's the hardest thing that I see with, especially young girls breaking out on the edge because they know their worth. They know that they have lots of value and they can bring lots of value to the marketplace, but they feel as though they're automatically going to be judged because A, they're Black, but B, they're a woman. So it's kind of like even two steps back. So when I speak to them, I, just encourage them, give them lots of energy, say like where you've been. I understand. I feel you. I felt the same way. But what I found was that once I cracked into it, really became a chameleon to the environment and getting to know different people, different races, different genders, and how they respond to me. That's how I've been able to, really show my worth in the marketplace without having to change myself. Getting to know people, meeting them where they're at based on how they communicate. And then after we've built this incredible relationship, that's when I can start to show my personality just a little bit more because now I'm already accepted and welcomed.
So do you think that some of it has to do with, because you do have a very welcoming personality, right? When people meet, like when you and I met, I was like, oh my God, I need to work with this child because she's wonderful. Like she's just so happy and bubbly and bright. You know what I mean? And I know you don't always feel like that. And I've encountered you a couple times and you're not always like on 100, like with this beam and smile all the time, but you're also able to, even when you're not like really really beaming bright, you still have an inner light, and you're able to, I don't know, just exude a confidence and a way of welcoming people that I think is wonderful for the job that you do. Because when people come in, you are who they encounter first, and that's what you want. You want somebody, like, you need that energy so your energy can be better, right? And
Correct.
sometimes just a smile or just a head nod or just a greeting can really change a person's perspective for like that whole day. And so what I wonder though is, as you talk about mentoring younger women and trying to encourage them and educate them about being professionals, about working in multicultural environments, because that's the way of the world. For your generation and younger, it's global, right? There's none of
Correct.
this, you only are working with people from your same country. It's like everywhere. So especially with technology and the ability to connect in all different kinds of ways. So, and not always in person. So what I wonder is, do you think that you and women like you, do you think that part of it has anything to do with how you feel about yourself? Like, is there a certain level of self-confidence and like self-awareness that you have to allow you to be able to be in multicultural environments, to
Oh,
recognize?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
What would you say? Yeah.
absolutely. I would say like affirmation is key. And I know growing up,
Mm-hmm.
my dad, and I'm just so very fortunate to like
Mm-hmm.
have had my dad in my life my
Mm-hmm.
entire life and
Mm-hmm.
like have an amazing relationship with my father, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of women, they don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to be affirmed from a male, my
Mm-hmm.
father,
Mm-hmm.
helped me a lot with my self-confidence. You know,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, he would always tell me like, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're the smartest one in the room, you're pretty, you know what you're talking about. Like my entire life, he would say these things every single day, to
Yeah.
the point when, when I graduated from high school and went to college,
Yeah.
I already had that self-confidence. I
Yes.
knew like whatever room I stepped into, I could command that room
Mm.
because I have that type of confidence. So
Yeah.
that's what young women, if you know your worth, you just need to have that type of confidence.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know everything, you don't have to know everything. You're going to be humble enough to learn the things that you don't know, but
Yes.
confident to know that you can do the work and get it done well.
Yes.
And so, a lot of women, they may not have had that type of affirmation growing up, but that's
Yeah.
no problem. You can
Yeah.
start where you are.
Ooh.
Start telling yourself these things. Whatever you want to feel in the future,
Yes.
start telling yourself that that's how you feel right now. And as you keep speaking that, you're going to build that confidence to be able to command the room when you get into the workplace and know that you're a force and that you are valued.
Yes. I love that. And as you are describing that, I'm thinking of, for me, I remember I did this it wasn't really a seminar. It was an all-day workshop, and I was on a panel. And the people on the panel with me were like these really big wig academics. This is when I was still an academic, like 6 or 7 years ago. And I remember the person who moderated the panel is this really famous academic. Her name is Professor Trisha Rose. She does a lot of stuff around race, ethnicity, like media, like different kinds of media, but she does it from an academic perspective. So she runs this center up at Brown University, and we were all sitting on a panel. I'm just thinking about what you were saying. And I too grew up with parents who were always pouring into me, like reminding me, everything you need, you already have. And I grew up in a family where we happen to be Catholic, but like faith was a really big part of it. And I do know for me that being grounded in that, it doesn't matter what your faith is in necessarily. It's that you have something that grounds you. And I'd think like you, having your father ground you, encouraging you and telling you what you could do, it really does make a huge difference. But I can remember Professor Rose reading a bio about me or something, and she asked me the question, and she said something like, she was impressed with my credentials. And I'd literally, like, I have, it's on YouTube, so it's kind of hanging out there. So if people don't believe me, they can go see it. But I just had to stop and take a moment, and I had to tell her, I had to collect myself, because hearing her say that as a fellow academic and a fellow Black woman, when as Black women in the workplace, that's not what we hear all the time. Often what we hear is the opposite. Like you said at the beginning, there's all this pressure. And I can remember leaving a meeting and thinking, did I use that word right? Because I was an English major in undergrad at Howard. But did I use that? Did I say that right? And wait, did I pronounce that right? And oh my God, like freaking out because thinking I messed up something. And so to hear Professor Rose say that she was impressed with my credentials,
like what that did for me, it was just like, I'm like, okay, I can sit up in this chair straight now, you know what I mean? But even though I came into it knowing my worth, it never hurts to hear people continue to be encouraging of you. And so I think that what you do is wonderful, encouraging, some of the young women around you. So I just think that's fascinating.
Absolutely. I mean, affirmation, that's a love language. I know that that's my love language,
Yes.
is words of affirmation. If you tell me, hey, Angel, you're doing a great job. I love what you're doing in the workspace. Like, you did great on this project.
Yes.
That boosts me up just to do more.
Yes.
So even though it may not be everyone's specific love language, it's still a way that we can show love.
Yes. Yes.
So even if I don't know the young woman, like, for example, when I first meet someone, I love to start with a compliment. Like, oh my gosh, I love your hair. I love your outfit. Where'd you get it?
Yeah.
You smell great.
Like
something small. So it's like, okay, this girl is really sweet. We're already building some type of bond. So as we continue to build this relationship, and I can pinpoint those areas that a young girl may be struggling with, I can start to affirm in that area so it can grow stronger. It's like a muscle. You have to build it up in order to make it strong.
Oh, I love that. So you're making me think of, the personal and how it blends with the professional. Because I can remember when we met, I remember exactly what I was wearing because you made a comment. I think it was about my sneakers and I had some bright yellow pants on.
And you had this cute top that was your daughter's.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So Morgan, I had your sweater on, just so you know. So can you talk a little bit about how you bring that part of yourself and that mentoring and that encouragement into the workplace? That's part one. And then part two is, what is it about that organization in the company that you think reflects that same kind of commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion? I saw this new thing now, it's called diversity, inclusion, and belonging or something like that. And I was like, okay, they keep changing up on me, they're gonna lose me. So, what is it about the company that you work for and the whole concept of a co-working space, which I love, that you think sort of can build and support young people of color, young women of color, young men of color, queer folks of color? How does a workspace like the one that you work in build and support people's emotional well-being and mental health?
Correct. So I would say, how I bring myself, my personal self into the workspace, first of all, I work really hard on myself.
Yeah.
I do a lot of personal development.
Yeah.
And that way, whatever's on the inside of me can come out in the workspace.
Yes.
You can't walk into a space and have like a nasty attitude, a nasty inside, and not think that that's going to accidentally fall out. It happens all the time in work meetings. And I tell my colleagues all the time, like, if your boss says something out of the water on a work meeting, it may not be towards you specifically. It may be something that they're going through. Just keep that in mind, even though it's not okay, but that may be it, right? So I just work on myself a lot so that whatever's on the inside of me, what's been in on the inside of me can come out in the workspace. So it's almost, like I said, it's like a light, I just share my personality. I come very genuinely and organically. I don't hold myself back, but of course, certain things you can't say all the time, but I keep that bubbliness and kind of pair it with professionalism, and that's how you get someone like me. And the one thing that I love about Industrious, like you said, Industrious specifically, we have these service principles where it's 7 characteristics of like the industrious employee. I actually have them right here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we welcome everyone, right? So when you come into the space, no one walks by without getting a hi, a hello, or a friendly welcome, so that as soon as they come in, that they know that they can be comfortable and industrious, right? We serve the whole person. So what that means essentially is that anything that you ask, we'll figure out a way to get it done. And it just sets Industrious aside because those first 2 principles are very customer service based instead of sales based, right? You're always thinking of how can I provide more value to a person. Stay positive. That's a service principle, of course. You have to be helpful. And then the 5th one is my favorite, which I think wraps into the space of me being an African-American woman in the professional realm, is called be you. So what is it about you that makes you you, and how can you bring that to the space? For example, when we had the event about mental health in minority communities at the space, and you gave out shea butter, like whipped shea butter, I put that in all of our Slack channels. I was like, we just had this amazing event during Black History Month. One of its the first ever in Industrious history, and we give out shea butter as a welcome, a thank you gift. And they were like, wow, that's incredible. That just exemplifies be you. What is it about you and your culture that you can bring to the space?
Yes.
My colleague Drea, she has gorgeous long locks.
Yes, she does.
She has gorgeous long locks, and people are mesmerized by them. They want to ask questions. They want to know where she got them done, and she has no problem whipping them and letting them know
girl,
that she does them herself, because that's just something about her that she brings into the space. And then, of course, like one of the last ones is called sweating the details. So, like me, being an African American woman, I understand the pressure and I know the balance. I don't want to drop the ball on anything. So when I do a task, I do it and then I look over it and I make sure that I'm sweating those details, getting it right.
Yes.
And that's why I love Industrious. In a co-working space, you just meet so many different people. You're forced to interact with people.
Yes.
You're forced to get to know new cultures. You cannot be simple-minded in a co-working space because you have people of so many different types of businesses, political views, colors. They're from different places. They speak different languages. It's like this melting pot of people. And I think it's the best thing because we're all in this space. I don't work with you. You don't work with me, but I still interact with you and get to know you. And now I've created this relationship that I would never have created if I wasn't in the space.
Oh, I love it.
So that's just what sets Industrious apart from the rest.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I love that you mentioned the event that we have for my nonprofit back at the end of February. It was on February 28th because it was the end of the month. That was like a wild day. I was like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And what I valued about you on that day as well is that I just felt like the organization was one where they were smart enough to hire you, number one. So they had you in that space. And like you said, you're a very outgoing, welcoming type of young woman. You're a young Black woman and very comfortable with that. That to me was very encouraging and important. And I remember when I came to you with the idea, it was like, oh yeah, we can do that. Yes, what you need, just let me know. What do we need to do? And like you said, sweating the details. And so the pictures from that event, even like now, I'm just still I was talking to one of the board members from the nonprofit. You remember Kathy, she spoke at the event. She was actually my first guest on the podcast. And she still talks about how much she enjoyed you and how much she enjoyed that space and just how, I don't know, she was saying something about how comfortable it felt. And it was just a nice, in other words, it was a welcoming space. And so it did not occur to me that everybody doesn't use shea butter. That's like that cultural sort of like you're in this like zone and all you see. And I'm like, don't everybody use shea butter? But you're right. That is like really, I'm not just going to say women of color. No, that's a Black woman thing, girl. Like Black women and shea butter, that's our thing. And so, that was, the shea butter was created by a Black woman-owned business called Work and Play Naturals. She was actually there. Her name is Adenia Melinda Bradley.
I have to order from her. I'm glad.
Yes, girl. Yes. I will hook you up when we finish. I'm definitely going to hook you up. And we're also doing, it's funny, we're going to do a giveaway with her products as part of the podcast. But I don't know, that stands out at me that one, people didn't know that that's the thing. And two, that you are a person that you work for an organization, I won't say that gives you the freedom, but that is welcoming enough to allow you to do that, right? Because it's important. And so I feel like that's a good segue into the last part of the conversation, which I feel like it's important to really talk about what are the specific types of things young women, young men of color, like I said, queer young folks of color, just any human being who's a young person can do personally and in their professional settings, maybe the top 2 or 3 things that you from your perspective, to take care of their own emotional well-being and mental health. What would you say some of those things are?
Absolutely. So some of those things, especially to take care of your mental health, number one, when you start grinding and you start getting into the professional world, don't, did I freeze?
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
Don't forget to unplug. Oh. So like, we go to work and we're like, work 8 till whenever the work gets done.
Yes, right.
And we believe like, okay, if I have to do this, if I want to go up in the company, and we end up working 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., go to sleep, wake up, do it the next day, you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to lose that fire that they hired you for.
Yep.
So why even burn yourself out? Like, when are you pouring into your own cup? remember to like re-energize yourself. You know, you can't pour from an empty cup. I tell people that all the time. So don't come to work empty. You can't produce if you're not at your highest level.
Yes.
So that's number one. Like, don't forget to unplug. Don't allow the lies of you need to work 12-hour days. Like, don't even let that skew your mind. Number two is like, really understand your worth, because if you don't understand your worth, you'll be so judgmental of yourself.
Yes.
And then you're not going to perform at your best.
That's right.
You were hired here for a reason. You were chosen out of other people who may not look like you. Obviously, you have something that they don't have. Know that you have that confidence and really work in it when you get to that workspace. And then number three, build relationships with people.
Got it.
Healthy relationships with people. So that way, when you go into the office space, you're comfortable with everybody. You don't have any bad blood with anyone. So when you go home, you feel great about the work that you do. You feel great about the people that you work with. And I've learned this from my father. You know, he's been in management and leadership for so many years. Like, I want to say like 30 or so years, maybe more. And to have the capacity to be in management for that long, that means you have to be doing something right with creating those relationships. He comes home and I've never seen him stressed from work. I mean, I've personally never seen it. Maybe he has before, but he doesn't bring it home. So to see that while working with people, that just shows me that it's possible. And that way you're going to be less stressed and your mental state's going to be so calm because you have great relationships with the people that you're with every day.
I love that. Oh my God. Thank you so much. This has been just delightful, just like you are delightful. And the last thing I would like to do is continue to end on this high note. You've had us on this arc the whole time. Like, there's been no part of it where we dip down into anything negative. And I really appreciate that. And that's really what I'm about as well. And so I'm going to ask you to pick a number.
Okay.
Yeah. Pick a number 1 through 10.
7.
Okay. So what I'm doing, having you pick a number, is I've done this with a couple of my guests. We had to switch it up a little bit because of coronavirus. Just like Cardi B said, coronavirus. We had to switch it up. But these are these cool cards called Affirmators. I want to make sure everybody can see them. Okay. And the company's called Knock Knock Incorporated. So I'm going to you pick the number, so I'm going to shuffle them. And then we're going to pick a card, and then I'll read it to you, and then I just want you to reflect on it for me. What do you think about it? Okay?
I think that sounds great. I also think your makeup looks great.
Oh, thank you. Girl, I'll be working on it. Me and my phone or my iPad and Jackie Ina, you trying to work that makeup. So thank you, Jackie Ina. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right. So the card says, let me show you what the card is. It says discernment. It's hard to read, so I gotta get it right.
That's my
Discernment.
favorite word.
Is it? So, okay. So
yeah.
The cards know. So discernment. I engage with my capacity for discernment and use it to carefully choose my battles. That does sound like you. Finally, I can let the little stuff bounce off of me with the carefree whimsy of a happy clam and save my bitter, jaded, misanthropic vitriol for the stuff that really earns it. What do you think?
I love it. It just reminds me, like, I like to say energy goes where energy flows.
Ooh.
So you put good energy into what's going to give you good back. Like, anything that's putting out negative energy, don't even put energy into it, because it's not even worth it. You only have, like, I like to say, I only have this much energy in a day.
Yes, girl.
If I'm putting negative energy into something, that takes away my own energy that I could be putting positive energy into something, and that's not worth my time. So I'm just not going to do that. Like, you got to listen to that little voice in your head that's saying, like, hey, it's not even worth it. Let it go. Yes. You know, that's where that discernment comes from. And it's so funny that word came up, because I say this all the time. Like, I have a really strong sense of discernment.
Oh, girl,
like,
yes.
I can really, like, pick up on people, on things, on places. Like, should I do this? Should I communicate with this person? Should I get into this situation? Listen to that voice in your head that's going to tell you, no, it's not positive, stay away. Or, like, yes, this is good for you, go for it.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Miss Angel, this has been a wonderful opportunity to speak with you. It's been a while, us getting here, but we both hung in there, and I appreciate your patience with me and my team as we got all this together. And, I only want to wish you just continued success. Your star is going to continue to rise and rise. It's already up there, but it's going to continue to rise. And
Thank you.
it's always a pleasure to be with you. And I'm so excited to sign this contract and get in your space with you. When we, yes, girl, when we get out of, so I'm going to be at Industrious Boston when we get out of this whole quarantine thing. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you soon and talking to you again.
Yes, no problem. Nice talking to you.
So there you have it. A wonderful conversation with a bright, bubbly, energetic. I aspire to that. I don't want to always have that kind of energy, but she's just such a lovely young woman. Miss Angel White from an organization called Industrious. They're all over the country. And it's a shared co-working space. Very nice. They have really luxurious, I would say, dare I say, surroundings. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to learn about how they promote diversity and equity and inclusion and mental health. And welcoming for diverse populations of young people, young adults in particular, and not so young adults. And just a wonderful opportunity to hear how a young Black woman, millennial, in this day and age, promotes and supports positive self-worth, positive self-esteem, encouraging other young women of color, young people of color, to take care of themselves, to have confidence, and to just really find it within themselves to thrive and become the best that they can be. As many people say, live their best life. So in closing, I want to share with you what I always say. It's really important to me that you feel and have lots of love, lots of light, and that it's always informed by good culturally relevant science. And then make sure that what you do after this is you go to our YouTube page, YouTube channel, and you subscribe, as well as going to our Libsyn, Apple Podcast. We're on Apple Podcast now, Spotify, SoundCloud, everywhere you get your podcast fix. And then please follow our social media on Twitter at Couched in Color, all one word. That's our handle. And then on Instagram, and we have a Facebook page, both at Couched in Color. So with that, I wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful week. I hope that you and your family are safe in place. And until next time,